Christmas Eve wealth rant. And I'm going to be starting to do these on a regular Tuesday basis, 7:30 in the evening, simply because so many people have asked, can I do them? Can I do them? Can we agree what time they're going to be? Which, of course, all makes perfect sense. So that's absolutely the plan. That is what we are looking to do. But one of the things that I thought would be quite an interesting show. Look, it's Christmas Eve. It's 4 o'clock if you're watching this live. Welcome on TikTok. You've got the backstage camera view there. YouTube, Facebook, and Insta. You've got the main camera over there. I thought one of the things that would be quite interesting tonight is to have a little chat about debt, because debt is one of those things, isn't it? And this time of year, let's be honest, debt is on a lot of people's minds. A lot of people are getting in and out of debt all the time. A lot of people really struggle with it. So I thought it might be quite an interesting topic for us to have a little bit of a talk about. Because the harsh reality, putting politics aside, whether you're a left or a right thinker, whether you see yourself elsewhere, the harsh reality is politicians aren't going to come and save you. No political party is going to come and save you. We may absolutely agree that some political parties are worse than others, and we may feel that at the moment things are pretty bad. So tonight, what I want to do is just have a little chat about debt, some of the thoughts that we might be working with, some of the difficulties we might be struggling with, and how we might get this working a little bit better. Chris, I think you can hear me all right. Besotted Carper, good evening to you. Good afternoon to you over on TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, Insta. Hi to all of you. We've got somebody there on Facebook, and we have plenty of people, 11 of you over in Insta. So let's let's get into this. Let's start to talk a little bit about this, because one of the things that I'd like us to see, TikTok, you won't be able to see this. I'm sorry, it's just because it's a different angle here. We're using a side camera. Is I got this email through today, and I'll tell us all what it says. So check how your monthly payments may change. I got an email from one of my banks today telling me that because the rate had dropped, then they wanted to update me on the situation with interest. And this is the statement here, right? Whether or not you can read this, whether or not you can see it at all on your screen, this is the thing that I want to share with you. For every £1,000 you owe on your card, your monthly interest would go down by 21 pence. Now, that is not to mock the 21p drop. That is not to mock people who've got 1,000 or more on their credit cards, which is, remember, a debt. We'll talk about the language of debt in just a minute. But what it is what a tiny, insignificant little improvement you make. So a 0.25% drop on the base rate. And this card, I'm not going to advertise the bank, you're welcome to guess them, but this card here says for every £1,000 you owe on your card, because of our rate drop, your interest charges will drop by 21 pence per month. I mean, be still my beating heart, right? What a stunning figure that is. So I don't want to shame or embarrass anybody. I'm not here to talk down to anybody. If you've got debts at the moment, if you've got difficulties with your monies, I understand that. I get that. Certainly in my 20s, I was flat broke most of the time. And a lot of the time I was carrying a debt. And this is probably going to sound like nothing to most people today. Remember, this is 30 odd years ago. But I was carrying a debt of £500 pretty much all the time on bank overdrafts. I didn't have credit cards, thankfully. But I was always carrying a debt of about £500. And it was only when I took some sustained effort to get rid of that things started to get a little bit more comfortable. So I'm not anti-borrowing. I'm not anti you should get rid of every possible debt and credit card you've got. But what we should be starting to do is just to readdress our views of debt, of borrowing, of credit cards. And because it is Christmas Eve, it's 4 o'clock. Listen, hopefully the rest of this evening you'll be watching. I'm currently into Interview with a Vampire on Netflix. I don't know if it's tonight or tomorrow that the next bit of Stranger Things drops. Can't wait for that. I'm likely to be eating chocolate. I'm likely to be drinking alcohol-free. But that's what I'm looking to do with my evening. I hope you're going to have a fantastic Christmas Eve. But right now, just to give us pause for thought, there are statistically people in one of these rooms who is struggling with a little bit of debt. So let's talk about debt. Let's talk about the language of borrowing, because the words they use are very, very key. 26, thank you there, Chris. 26th at 1 a.m. The words that when we come to debt are really important, right? Credit card balance, available credits, minimum payment, buy now, pay later. It's always really soft language, but it's hiding an uncomfortable reality. When you have a credit card and you have £5,000 available, what they're saying is you have a debt card and you can borrow £5,000. And then if you pay it back within a month, or depending on the timeline for you, then that's it. Alternatively, we are going to hit you with monster credit. You don't have a balance. What you've got is how much money you owe. And I wonder how many of us might see our credit cards differently. I didn't get a credit card until I was almost 40 something. I briefly had one in my late 30s, like 3 months, quickly realized it was a mistake, quickly paid it off, quickly got rid of it, and didn't come back to one until my business was running well enough to put everything towards every cost of my business onto the credit card. Too many people are getting caught up in credit cards, in buy now, pay later, and in all these difficulties. And I'll remind you, none of this is about shaming or embarrassing anybody. If you are struggling with debt, talking about it on Christmas Eve might feel like a strange time to talk about it. But if not now, when? Because the next 3-4 days are going to be a blur. And then there's that weird Christmas, New Year period. And then you're into the new year. And that's often when the regret hits, because the statements start arriving. Pay now. Pay this. Pay by this date, or the interest starts mounting. So I want, for people who are even casually interested, we can have a chat about debt, credit cards, and those things. For people that are struggling, I want you just not to feel beaten up, not got at, not embarrassed or ashamed, but I just want you to take pause and have a think about this, so that when you hit into the new year, you might be just thinking, this is the year I'm going to do something about my addiction to borrowing and debt. Unregulated credit like ClearPay is horrendously bad for people that understand it. Chris, I think lots of people don't. Besotted Carper, my son took out a payday loan, no idea what he was signing up to, 1,300% interest. Yeah, you see us on TV all the time, and we'll talk about those in just a minute. Kalshi, I got caught out trying to get out of it now. Hopefully have it paid off late next year. Good luck with that, Kalshi. We'll talk a little bit more about that today. Lewis, happy Christmas to you. Adnus, that's a little bit depressing there on YouTube. So not following that line. So let's look at these percentage rates, because Besotted Carper on TikTok there makes a really good point. I don't watch a lot of TV, but I was half watching something the other night, and this sort of bright and breezy thing came up. Oh, it's really bad. My washing machine's broken. I need to go shopping. Oh, I've run out of money. Hey, why don't you just apply for a thing? You'll get a decision in minutes. £50 to £500. Payday loans, right? And I was watching this thing thinking, this looks suspicious. They got to the percentage rate, which was written in the smallest print down the bottom. And it was something like 1,485%, 1,485% interest. Even the ones, there are ones advertised on this platform that say, oh, if you've got loans, if you've got this, why don't you consolidate them into one easy payment? And if you click the button, you'll see it's 50%, 60% interest. I took over a business one time. The guy who ran the business, he ran it into the ground. He had so much debt built up on it. One of the things it had about £1,500 debt on it, which for a business is nothing, right? And it starts £1,500. Yeah, we're paying it off. We're paying off £300 a month. And I went, oh, okay. And I looked at it, and we were paying off £300 a month, of which £150 was interest. I said, what are you doing with this? And he went, oh, it's just no. So if you are struggling to understand costs and debts, it's dead common. It's nothing to be embarrassed about. But today, Christmas Eve, let's just, if we can, get into your head a little bit and just get you thinking about this. Maybe this is the year you decide to get out of this. Paid off 35k debt, cleared multiple accounts, be forever grateful that I had the means. Absolutely, Chris Miller. I think once people see the light, they become assiduous about not going into debt. There is, of course, a financial argument. If you have a mortgage, you are better to keep the mortgage and borrow more money to, or spend the money you would be paying to your debt towards saving via investment or something else. Very strong argument for that. Financially, I think it makes sense. But of course, debt is often an emotional thing. So we're often better to take an emotional, more sensible choice. We've rescued me now, sat down to have a chat through those things. Failure of mine. It's certainly one way to see it there, but Besotted. He said we had to have it. Europe will lose its okay. Tafanissimo, not what we're talking about in today's session. So this is the problem. The rates that are on offer are often the brutal side of things. The way the debt, the credit cards, the offer, the loan is marketed to you is super friendly. And we need to be really mindful of this. Buy now, pay later is another one. And Klarna, ClearPay, PayPal credit. I'm not having a go at any of these offers. They are incredible. If you have the means to buy and pay next month, and it makes sense, of course. But you know if you're getting into difficulty. And the harsh reality, if you've ever run a business yourself, you will know that your fortunes can change very, very quickly. Things can rapidly build up and get to a state when you're in a problem. Now, it can happen to any of us, right? And until the money's in your account, the money's not in your account. If you've had 5 people promising to pay you and they haven't paid you, you've got the problem. Your job can drop you at any time. Don't want to be grim about Christmas, but let's keep this in mind. And so the problem with buy now, pay later, it's what we might call an illusion of control. So you can buy now, you don't have to apply, there's no scary thing. It's 60 quid, don't have to pay anything, pay 20 quid next month, 20 quid the month after, 20 quid the month after that. Why wouldn't you do that? Well, here's the reason. If you can't just lay out 60 quid for that thing now, knowing that you've got the money, you probably shouldn't buy it, should you? That's the difficulty. They factor in that 15 to 20% of loans will fail, hence the crazy rates at Carper. I don't know how many rates fail, but they do absolutely, of course, factor in a rate. This is exactly what they do. So if you are a buy now, pay later user, I would ask you to consider if you ever missed a payment, because if you've ever missed a payment, that's where all their money comes from. Not you alone, obviously. But we need to consider this. It is easy to get into this. And this time of year makes it more difficult. So December often becomes much more emotional and not logical. There's a pressure to be generous. There's a pressure to keep up. Family have expectations. Partners have expectations. There are adverts literally everywhere. So let's acknowledge this time of year is difficult. And if this year you have got yourself into a bit of a difficulty, if this year you've got yourself into a bit of a situation that's difficult, then fair enough, that's this year. Next year, maybe you ought to be a bit more careful. Going into next year, you ought to be a little bit more careful. I had a conversation with members of my family this year, and I said, you know what, I've got this idea. I don't know what we all think about it. And I was a little bit nervous because I was the first one to go with this. I said, what if this year none of us buy anything for each other? Not even a little gift, not even a little fun thing. Not even the cards. What if we don't buy each other anything this year because we've all got enough stuff? That was my original suggestion. The first person I mentioned this to, I did this one at a time, said, you know what? I'd love that. Every year I get jumpers. I've got more jumpers than I will ever need. I'm going to start giving jumpers away or selling jumpers. I've got too many jumpers. Next person I mentioned it to said, do you know what? That's great. I'd love that. I hate the pressure. Next person I mentioned it to said, we get so stressed about what we're going to buy. None of the run-up is fun. And so this Christmas, for the first time in a long time, and this is nothing to do with money, but this might help you for next year, for next Christmas, for next birthday, for next big event. This year, for the first Christmas in some years, I'm quite relaxed about it. I'm not worried about have I spent enough, or have I bought too much, or have I bought tat, or have I bought something they don't want. I'm not worried about do they buy me something that's kind of worth what I'm getting, and have they spent time buying something I like, and Do I have to fake that I like it and I don't really? Have they bought me something really nice and I've not bought them something enough? All of those stresses and fears and worries have gone. And it's quite an interesting view when you get into this. Let's pick up a couple of messages. Cash flow management is very different to debt problem. ClearPay can be a trap or a good thing. Completely agree, Chris. The problem is that sometimes people rely on things without actually knowing that what they're doing or how they're doing it or why they're doing it. And once you've got a missed payment and you have to pay some interest, that should be your warning. ClearPay, by the way, is shorthand. Other brands are available. Yes, no, absolutely. So we're clear. Keeping up with Joneses is one of the biggest social money traps. I agree. It's not the Joneses anymore. It's the Musks, Bezos, Zuckerberg. We're trying to keep up with. Yeah, if we're trying to keep up with them, we are in difficulty, aren't we? Let's go down that route. Sorry, I've just got this conversations about 0% rates. I spend on 0%, then reinvest it. Surely it's the best route as you earn interest on the money, not them, says the Pike Angler on YouTube. Yes, so Pike Angler, a long time ago when I first started messing around with property, I did exactly that. I used 0% interest. I paid only the advance fee, which typically was a few £100. I used that to raise funds. I used the funds to raise property. I then borrowed against that using more 0%, and I moved 0% to 0%. I did that for about 5 years. Now, the only reason I did it was because I had a considerable sum of money flowing through my business anyway. So I was always backed up. But it makes me think, if I had a normal job, a normal PAYE job, even if I was very well paid, normal jobs could be gone in a second. Businesses can go any second. Now, I got to the point where it was getting a little bit hairy. I'd paid off a lot of the investments that I'd funded through 0%. This is the Pike Angler on YouTube, by the way. But it got to the point where I thought, no, I'm getting out of this. So I cleared it all off. Those are the only times I've used credit card debt. So I have a credit card for my business. I buy everything on my credit card. It's cleared every single month. I don't carry credit card debt. I don't carry personal loans. I don't even carry a mortgage for where I live. Now, I appreciate I'm very fortunate in saying that, but I've worked very hard to get to that point. But I agree with you, Pike Angler. It can be very, very powerful. I ended up with an absolutely mangled credit rating for a few years because of what I've been doing. I was taking out 2, 3, 4 cards every single year, always paying them off, always paying everything they asked, always paying, never missed any payment, but absolutely mangled my credit rating. So that was back in my 30s. Stopped doing that. It was a ride. It was fun. Would I recommend it? No, dangerous as hell, but an interesting experience. And I take your point, Pike Angler. The reality is, Maliha on TikTok. Hi, good to meet you. The reality is, the most important times in your life were nothing to do with money. You know, the truth about what matters, it's the people, isn't it? It's the memories, it's the places, it's space in your head. It's things you experience and places you went. I remember certain points in my life. I'm sure you do too. And this is specifically to you if you've been carrying a debt around now, whether it's an overdraft, whether it's a buy now, pay later debt, whether it is a problem that you're currently dealing with, whether it is a long-term loan, whether it's a credit card thing, you keep wishing to sort that out. I bet you can remember moments in your life that are so wonderful and brilliant, but didn't revolve around money. That's what I bet you can remember. And they weren't the most experienced. The best night out you ever had could have been the night you went into an exclusive, expensive bar and you paid a lot of money for the drinks. But just as equally, could have been the night you started off at Wetherspoons. That's absolutely possible. The best meal you ever had was absolutely, could have been in a lovely restaurant, but I bet you've had plenty of amazing meals that consisted of bread and cheese and some ham and some wine or some water or some fizzy drinks and some fruit and a bag of crisps that you bought in a supermarket before walking up a hill and sitting there with somebody important in your life. Children, partner, husband or wife. I bet you that's happened at some point in your life. I bet you there are things that you own that are worth nothing in terms of finances, but they mean everything to you in terms of what they represent. This is what we need to keep in mind, because it's too easy to get caught up in buying more stuff, nice stuff, expensive stuff. And it is this that the credit card companies and the loan companies and the overdraft people, this is what they are relying on. So collecting gold and silver Britannias, Steve West London there, thank you very much. Listen, I'm going to bring this the bit that I want to say is kind of coming to a close now. So I'm going to take your comments, your questions, your observations as we go. We have a bunch of people on Instagram and on YouTube and on Facebook and on TikTok on the backstage camera here. So happy to take your questions, your comments, your observations. And I'm also going to mention that we are going to be doing a live on Tuesday next week. That's the 30th of December at 7:30. So that live is going to be all about a Freeman of the Land letter template. So I got a letter template a little while ago, and I've been wondering how I might deal with this. I think like quite an interesting program. I've got a whole bunch of templates that I've acquired from people who claim they can get you out of water bills or electricity bills. So we're going to be going through one of those letters. We're going to be taking apart line by line, and I'm going to be telling you exactly what I can see there and why you might want to be careful about that. Cheers, Besotted, absolutely for you as well. Maliha, I've got an extra overdraft so I can take it out. Long-term scared to be honest. You're in debt by 3,000. Yep. So the question really, if you don't want to be in debt, how are we going to start to get yourself out of that? Now, we all know there are lots of ways that we can get out of debt. We can use things like debt snowballs. We can use what's the one called debt avalanche or something. It's all snow based. Financially, of course, the best thing to do is to hit the biggest rate. Emotionally, the best thing to do is usually to hit the smallest amount outstanding so you can clear it and move on to the next one. So that's generally a view that I found very, very helpful. Having looked at both, everyone thinks it's the numbers that drive you. It's often the emotions that drive you. Let's pick up some more of your questions, comments, observations. Russell Snowden on Facebook there. Hey, Russell, what's the minimum time horizon when investing in the S&P 500? Your thoughts? So, Russell, anything that I see as an investment, I try and see it as what we might call a lifetime investment. So I'll explain what I mean by lifetime, and you can adjust that to suit your experience and understanding. When I first started getting involved in property, I was 40, I'm going to say 42, 43. And my plan at the time was 10 years as an absolute minimum in property. Within a couple of years, I rethought that and moved it to 20 years as an absolute minimum. And increasingly, as I've got older, I think that's kind of the way you have to see any investment. So for me, one of the biggest problems people make with investments, whether it is property, S&P 500, whether it is ISAs, whether it is shares, whether it is gold, any of these things, gold really is a store of value, isn't it, rather than investment, but you get the point, is really it's about setting it and forgetting it. So it's putting those funds in, setting that investment up and leaving it. And it's leaving it to the point where either it's hit an amount that you've been thinking of, or you've got to a point in your life, that could be an age, or it could be a stage that you want to achieve, or you have preset a set of conditions. When you reach that, then you will do this. I think one of the biggest difficulties is you have an early success and you convince yourself you are an investment genius. Not having a go at you, Russell, this is what I think any of us can do. I've certainly fallen into this trap myself. So you buy something, it goes really, really well, and then you think, "Oh, I've absolutely nailed this. I'm really all over this. This is great. I can hammer this. I can do really well." I was of the opinion briefly with property that I was a bit of a property genius, but of course, as with everything, you've got no control over the market. And so I held on to and continue to hold on to property where I've been forced to sell for various reasons in my life. The more sensible thing has always been to hold on. I think the same about gold, about crypto, about S&P 500. That's my view. Russell, what do you think? PMC UK on Insta, the way they're absolutely pushing shares and dropped ISA, so you have to go shares, tells me they're going to collapse a lot soon. PMC UK, I don't think they are going to collapse a lot. I mean, I think that a cynical or a conspiracy driven person might see that. I'm not sure that's something I would agree with you there, but of course you can have whatever view you wish. It's your situation. I do think that the dropping of the cash ISA is a disastrously poor choice by this government, and I think we intend to push people towards stocks and shares ISAs is a stupid decision. I think it's a very poor move. Sell the templates for £7 each, says Chris Miller. Yeah, I'm not going to do that. Let me tell you a bit about the templates. This is the show I'm going to do on Tuesday next week, 7:30, right here. It is. I think the announcement is out on some of the socials. I think. I'm going to talk about this template. So last year there was one specific creator who was claiming that they could get you out of council tax, they could get you out of energy bills, they could get out of bills generally, they could safely stop bailiffs, and they talked utter nonsense, right? Just drivel, rubbish. Anyway, I'd started posting because I don't care what you believe. You can talk about whatever you want. It's nothing to me. If you want to believe the sovereign citizen, freeman of the land rubbish, of course you can. Literally nothing to do with me. But the reason I got involved was I could see people getting ripped off. I could see people believing them. I read the comments, hundreds of comments going, please do you sell templates? Please can you help me? And it was the targeting of vulnerable and desperate people that made me want to step up and call it out for what it is. And what it is frankly appalling behaviour from people being ripped off. I acquired the template pack that individual was selling. This is why I'm going to cover this on the show next week. And the first thing I did was to the person who sent it to me said, "Look, can you not mention my name? Can you not explain it was me? I feel a bit silly. I feel a bit stupid having fallen for it." And I think the thing is, anyone could fall for it if they are desperate enough, if they are worried enough, if they are concerned enough. So it's not for me shaming and naming anybody. It's not for me calling anybody stupid. If you want to believe that stuff, you can. But for me, if 25 to 50 pounds is serious, then I think somebody needs to keep a lookout for you and go, this is what you're really getting. So I've got all 18 letters in this template pack. I've run all of them with a couple of people that I know, like, and trust, who are experts in these areas, genuine, not self-appointed sovereign citizen nutters. I've also run them through a couple of AI that I use all the time, and they've all come back with exactly the same observations, many of which I've picked up myself anyway, I'm pleased to say. So I'm going to run those through with you. And if it saves you 50 quid that you haven't got, then that will be why I'm doing that. So that's what I'm doing next week if you're interested. Now, I'll take your questions, your comments, your observations for the rest of today's program. Have you right? Hope the interest rates crash, says Malia. Have you found the solicitor that will take the case yet? See, this is an interesting point that Chris is mentioning there on TikTok. I put out a standing challenge to anybody that believes those people, because they always say you're wrong. You're trying to prove that you're right. It's just because you don't know enough. And I pointed out various things. First of all, I'd like to be wrong. I pointed out that I would prefer to be wrong, and I pointed out that I don't care if you believe it. It doesn't affect me, right? If you want to get done for not paying your council tax, it makes no difference to me. And then I tried something different, which is what Chris on TikTok is referring to. I said, find me one solicitor who will take the case and get me out of paying council tax. Their answer is always the same: you don't need a solicitor. To which I always respond, I know you don't need one, but I'm a professional. I'm a grown-up. My time is very precious. I will pay them properly. I don't want a 50 quid template. My council tax this year is 5.5 grand. I mean, if you're selling me a template for 50 quid, you're a nutter. You need to be selling me the template for 5.5 grand at least. I'd pay a solicitor 20 grand because within 3 years they've got my money back. And this is where they think, oh well, it's because all solicitors are in the pay of the government. They won't say anything. So it is absolute dream time. So no, I haven't. That's what we're doing next week. Chris, thank you. Mikey, bit more depression. We're not in depression. Oh, that's Malia talking to Mikey there. 5.5k, more than one property or just a big one? No, that's one property, Chris. Technically, it should be another almost 3. The bit of the property I'm in at the moment is entirely self-contained. one thing I will say about my local council, they accepted my explanation that this property is an annex to the main property, and the only people who use it are the people who live in the main property. So otherwise, I'd be paying basically £8 a year council tax, and that's one property. PMC UK. I've never heard of this not paying bills. Is it legit? If it's legit, surely no one would be paying. Yeah, this is my point, PMC UK on Insta there. I tried every argument I could with the sovereign citizen nutters, and I kept saying, if this was genuine, no one would be paying. If this was genuine, you would have solicitors on TV all the time offering to take your deal for 50% of what they save the first 3 years. I mean, the amount of business would be vast. Of course it would. And it's just a nonsense. So I wanted to sort of do this for real. This is what I'm doing next Tuesday at 7:30. Small properties sell quicker. They do. Not nice. It's not. Alicia is putting random faces up as far as I can see. I'll take your final questions, comments, and observations. We've been talking about debt in tonight's program. We've been talking about how easy it is to get into debt. We've been talking about how much tougher it is to get out of debt. So I'll take your questions, comments, observations, money related. And whilst you're thinking about what else you want to ask or state or drop into the conversation on that topic, let me say this to you. If you have enjoyed this live tonight, you know what to do. You can on TikTok, you can ding the screen and send me some likes. On Facebook, please do consider sending me some stars. They cost you 1 cent each. On YouTube and Insta, I think you can like or wave or something. But please, if you are enjoying the work, please do support it. It is much appreciated. The other thing you can do, if you really do like my work, check my profile. You'll find one link there. The one link takes you to a very simple page. The simple page has got all of my social links on it, so you can choose whichever platform you'd like to watch me on. And there's a single button that talks about the wealth formula. If you click the wealth formula, you get the opportunity to find a little bit more about the 3 strands that I use to kind of guide my life a little bit. I talk about making money, I talk about saving money, and I talk about finding a balance in your life. So if you're interested, it's not all about making more money, although that might be a solution for you. It's not all about saving money, which is kind of what we've been referring to tonight. That could be about important for you. And it's also not about doing one thing to exclusion of everything else. So for me, it's finding that balance. I've loved what I've done for the last 30 years. So I run a number of businesses. I've got a great life work balance, money in, money out balance. So I'm really kind of happy with everything I do. So if you're comfortable with all of those things, that's the way to go. And if you want to know more about what I do, hit my profile, hit that link, and there's a button there about the wealth reset. And it's literally 5 days worth of emails giving you a balance about making money, saving money, and balancing your life. You can also find a little advert here, then I'll pick up a couple more messages. You can also buy my book. It's called The Wealth Formula. It's on Amazon. You can get it from the same link. Just go through there. It's £7.99. It is designed to be read in an evening. Now, if you don't read it in an evening because you're a slower reader, or because you got confused, or because you get engaged and do something else, that's fine too. But most people can read it in an evening. That is intentional. It is literally do this, think about this. I don't tell you to start a business, but I suggest that might help you. I don't tell you to save money, because if you don't have a problem with that, that's no use. But it's literally my manifesto. It's what I do, what works for me. And if it helps you, that's great. Supercar Nigel, thanks for your content. I really enjoy it. Thank you, Supercar Nigel, on Insta over there. Pike Angler, Graham, what do you think the best way to invest a small amount of money, around £200 a month? Pike Angler, I can't tell you the best thing to invest. You might want to put a little bit into gold. You might want to put a bit into cash ISAs. You might want to put a bit into stocks and shares ISAs. You might want to put some straight into stocks and shares. You might want to put some into a cash fund. Now, £200, you could split 3 ways or 4 ways. You could have £50 cash ISA, £50 stocks and shares ISA, £50 kind of cash ready just in case, and £50 paying off a debt. It's really about thinking the best way that suits you. There is no single answer to this. One of the things I talk about in the Wealth Formula book is identifying your balance for you. Would you take a 5% deposit deal to move sooner or save harder for a 10% deposit? Don't understand the question, Chris. Genuinely love the program and the book. Really good info in there. Thank you, Chris Miller. Chris Hope, hi. The Wealth Formula on Amazon. It is. Love that you've written a book. Thank you, Chris Hope. It's for people that like doing what I talk about. It's my manifesto. It's my guide to how I do what I've done for the last 30 years. And I will share with you, I have made shed loads of mistakes. In my 20s, I made loads of mistakes. I continue to make loads of mistakes. And anybody who tells you they don't, maybe they don't. I make loads of mistakes. More money, more backing gives you a degree of cushioning. So I am financially comfortable. I don't have debts other than debts that I have chosen that I want. And I generally work in businesses that I absolutely love doing. That's why at 20 to 5 on Christmas Eve, I'm sat here doing a stream on a topic I'm enjoying. Supercar Nigel likes picture books only. I'll bet you do, Nigel. Russell Snowden on Facebook. I've got cash, property, a SIP, ETFs, and gold. For me, retirement is not an age or an amount. It's freedom and security. I'm still working, so we'll see how my plan transpires. Living below your means and consistency is key. Excellent content, by the way. Russell, thank you very much. Russell, my view on retirement is I have no intention to retire. I could have started taking pensions 3 years ago. I have, for me, my balance is continuing to do what I want to do. And I love doing what I do. I love making deals. I love streaming. I love making content. I monetized over this weekend, just gone onto Facebook for the first time. I've only really been using Facebook properly since the start of November. So I've been accelerating that with a lot of work and effort. It's partly why I'm sat here now. TikTok monetized for me a few years ago. Facebook is now monetizing and balancing, and that should be growing over the next 2 to 3 months. And YouTube is my next big target. So I'm doing this because I love doing what I do. So for me, I agree with you, Russell. I don't really want to retire. I think retirement, perhaps if you work in something very physical or very long hours, is probably a very different prospect. But I love what I do. Opinions on council tax, Graham. Overpriced, delivers very little. What you spend your money on, says Diva Fever. Old men only want their youth back. You know I do. Getting wealth after middle age is just a false sense of achievement, trying to ignore death's hand on your shoulder. It's got a bit dark there, hasn't it? I don't really spend my money on anything because there we go. Because I don't really want anything or need anything. So I like doing what I do, and that's what I do. The things I buy are very few and far between. I'm wearing a very lovely jacket right now. This jacket cost me £5 from a charity shop. I'm wearing very nice trousers. I bought 5 pairs of these because I bought the first pair and they were fantastic. So I bought 5 more pairs from wherever, and it's just a t-shirt, isn't it? But most of the stuff I have, most of my kit, most of my tech, most of my platforms I use, most of everything is run through my business. I have a nice car, but I don't really care. Supercar Nigel, I think life is like a business. If you can run your life without getting into debt, you'll probably be good at running a business. Fair point, Supercar. Semi-retired, doing 30 hours odd per week. See, Supercar Nigel, I don't mind doing very long hours, but it's because I love doing what I do. Again, I appreciate not everyone is in that same position. Let's pick up the last few messages over here on TikTok. We're looking at buying. Oh, I see. I have an offer on a 5% deposit available, so I could take it. If it suits you, Chris, if it works for you, why not? Oh, you bought it, Chris. Thank you very much. God blimey. I hope Chris there on TikTok has bought the Wealth Formula. Chris, I hope you enjoy it. I really hope you enjoy it. I've really tried to write it in a way that I hope is accessible to as many people as possible. I originally started writing a very complicated thing, and I just stripped it all out and made it. There's a lot of white. There's a lot of white on every page. Diva Fever. Did I get blocked for speaking the truth? Nope. Nope and nope. Genuinely easy reading. Cheers, Chris. Thank you, folks. I think we might be at that. Chris, if you have bought and read it, would you mind please making a review of it as a verified purchaser? I would really appreciate that. Thank you. Chris Hope, if you enjoy it, please also. Clearly, if you've not enjoyed it, just stay very quiet. arriving on the 28th. Fantastic. Right, folks. Thank you, Chris. And thank you, Chris. I will see you all definitely on the 30th at 7:30 if you'd like to be, if you want to be back here. Pike Angler, let me just pick up this great advice, loving the live chat. Biggest advice is to say money, try, which may suit some people, try to get a rewards card on fuel, give some of your 1p back on later as a voucher. Yeah, those kind of things, it's always a balance. But again, I absolutely talk about that. Michelle Bennett, thank you very much on TikTok. Merry Christmas, Sherbet Face. Christmas of Hope, looking forward to it. Very, very good. I hope you enjoy it. Folks, I hope Santa is kind tonight. I hope you've been good all year. I will see you in a couple of days. My content is still going to be going out on all the platforms. I will probably not be doing a live now until the 30th. I will see you all soon. Take it easy. Thanks all. If you're still wondering why you're still here, it's because I'm closing the other stream off. Cheers, folks.